A settlement between the NFL and Colin Kaepernick. What it means, what it doesn't mean, and how everybody moves forward. Also, your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should. Changing jerseys? There's the panel. Let's go.
Jurassic ending.
Although, if I had the technology to change the faces of the panelists, face swap, maybe I would do that. You know? Maybe.
Don't push me with Woody.
Colin Kaepernick and Eric Reid and the NFL coming to a settlement in the collusion case. We start there. Joint statement and announcement to resolve the pending grievances. A resolution, as is written, subject to confidentiality agreement, so there will be no further comment by any party. A lot to get to here, national panel. Mina Kimes, we'll start with you. What does it all mean?
Well, my first reaction is, while we don't know the size of the settlement, it was probably very large, given the confidentiality, given the fact that Colin Kaepernick could have been a quarterback in the NFL for 2 years, and the fact that it was large in no way invalidates his position, which is that he was colluded against. In fact, in my mind, it strengthens it, right? The idea that the league did not want this to go to a final hearing, the fact that they did not want the evidence, the depositions, the text messages gathered over the last year or 2 years to come out, that says to me that Colin Kaepernick had a case, and it was probably a strong one.
Kevin Blackistone, first on what it all means.
It means that everyone who said that the reason Colin Kaepernick was not playing football was because he was not good enough at his position are absolutely 100% wrong. And you can put that in all caps. What it also means is that, as Mina said, there was obviously some evidence here that the NFL did not want to have to go through in a public court through the discovery process. And a lot of lawyers who I talked to when the arbitration case came up, and that was decided that this case would go forward, said right then and there that this will be settled because the NFL doesn't want it to go a step further.
Ramona, initially on what it all means.
Well, rarely in a case like this do you see one side clearly win and one side clearly lose. Usually there's a compromise that makes everyone feel like they can walk away with some level of pride. And I think Colin Kaepernick has to have a lot of pride here because he got the NFL to admit by signing this, by settling, that they had done something wrong, that even just that admission moves this ball forward here. And when he first started protesting, he was protesting against police brutality and in this country. And a lot of us asked, okay, so what would make you satisfied in to stop kneeling eventually, right? What would show this protest had worked? Well, he got the NFL to admit that they colluded against him. And by settling this, I think it may not be a clear victory for him, but at least it is moving the ball forward.
And Sarah Spain?
I have to disagree just slightly with Ramona only in this, which is the case and the cause are very separate. The cause was the intention he started with, and nothing has been fixed in terms of police brutality or equality of treatment in our country, although conversations have progressed because of Kaepernick. This only speaks to the case, which is that he lost the opportunity to do his job because people didn't like the cause. And so this case, not just the 2 years that he already missed, but any other future years that are probably not likely to happen because of what's already gone down between the NFL and Kaepernick, whatever large amount he was paid is separate from the cause that he was speaking to. It's only for the case, which is that he lost his job for this. And anybody who says him taking the money or whatever he does with that money has any bearing on the initial intent that he had when he knelt is completely misreading this.
I hear from Ramona saying this is the NFL assuming guilt, and Blackistone, you had suggested the same, but I want to ask you if you feel it's that way. Also, if you feel it's Kaepernick accepting something, that he has a price or something on any level.
Well, you know, that's going to be the struggle for him right now. Like, that's the next question. What does Kaepernick do? Suppose he gets offered a job to play in this league. Should he do that? Does this mean that his message can be purchased? As in some ways it appears that it was with the Nike ad. I don't think that's 100% true, but I think that's certainly a consideration.
You want to address that?
Well, I think the question of whether he wants to play football now, which came up yesterday when we heard about his rumored financial demands to the AAF, which, again, they haven't been confirmed, but some people saw that and said, well, he doesn't even want to play football. Well, one, the AAF is very different from the NFL. Just because he doesn't want to play in one doesn't mean he doesn't want to play in the league where he should be. And two, it doesn't matter whether he wants to play now. That's not pertinent to either the cause, as Sarah said, or his case. What matters to the case is that he wanted to play at one point and the league possibly colluded against him.
That's interesting. You draw a distinction between whether he wants to play now or whether he wanted to play 2 years ago. Sarah Spain, you want to address that?
Yes.
Yeah, well, I want to speak to what Kevin said, too, because I think a lot of people do believe that accepting a deal with Nike or taking this money and somehow it takes away from his activism. You do not need to be a martyr to be an activist. You do not need to suffer to prove to us your point. And he has already suffered enough. He lost his job. He became a political and public pariah. He had his intentions and his cause twisted to serve other people's purposes. The Nike campaign actually elevates the cause because it makes him even more of a public figure. We don't begrudge people for getting public and sponsorship support for the causes they care about, unless we've already decided that we're going to try to find any way possible to criticize this person for what he's doing.
Kevin, you've spoken on this air about this before, the idea of martyrdom for Kaepernick and what it meant then. What does it mean now with an acceptance here of some sort of settlement?
Yeah, well, you know, I think back to Muhammad Ali and his whole statement about damn some money, that his message could not be bought, his protest could not be mollified by dollar signs. And so I think that's something that Kaepernick's up against right now. And so, you know, the Nike campaign, when I look at it, I don't know that elevated him. To me, it made the water that he was in murky, because the Nike ad didn't hearken back to anything that put him in our consciousness in terms of being an activist. Now, certainly, maybe with the money that he's getting now, he can pump that into a lot of the things that he's doing, particularly with youth and with his Know Your Rights campaign, and that will be that will be all well and good.
Ramona?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we talk about the cause, but in a lot of ways the cause had become conflated with the conflict that he had with the NFL and their owners. I mean, the initial cause, which I always try to point out, was protesting against police brutality and racial inequality in this country. But very quickly that became an anthem protest, or labeled an anthem protest. And I think that was much more players protesting, and it became a protest against the NFL and its owners. And so I think this, at least on today, is a victory for Colin Kaepernick, because he got them to concede.
Mina, something you said struck me here. The settlement, I think you all agree, is about money. Could it also be about playing? That he wouldn't pursue a job going forward, or that maybe he would be allowed a job going forward, or whether his wanting to play is even necessary? Right. Please.
I don't think it's necessary. And by the way, we should mention Eric Reid is part of this too, right? And he is on an NFL team. He just signed a multi-year contract. So it's not, you know, beyond the pale that Colin Kaepernick could play again. Do I think it's likely? Absolutely not. I think in many ways the settlement signals that the NFL is trying to put this past them. They're trying to get people to stop talking about it. And we'll see, you know, if that happens or not. But it doesn't mean he's going to play.
Sarah Spain?
Yeah, it is about money, but it's also about acknowledging that the NFL has the means and the money to let this drag on as long as they want. Usually it's the big corporation that says, great, we'll bleed you dry until you give up. They didn't want to do that because they were worried about what was going to go public. And because Colin Kaepernick took a stance and actually took this to trial, this is likely to affect going forward how the NFL deals with situations like this. So if you think this is some selfish ploy for just his money, he has done more than enough to scare NFL owners and the league itself away from situations like that, not just because of the settlement, but because how it blew up the league politically, ratings-wise, everything else.
Kevin Blackistone?
Yeah, I think his name has become such an anathema within the league that he may not be able to still find employment. I think, just like Sarah said, he has scared away this league. He has scared away owners. They don't want to get in this conflict with their ticket-paying fans.
The settlement coming the week of that report that Mina referenced, the Alliance League reaching out to Colin Kaepernick, is what the Associated Press reported, and that, according to their source, he wanted $20 million to start to consider that. Sarah, you were saying the timing of that struck you was interesting.
Yeah, well, first of all, we know that the AAF games are running on the NFL Network, that part of the contracts allow you to try out and leave that league to go to the NFL. They are in a partnership together. The timing of this leak coming just before this is completely meant to muddy the waters and, again, to make this seem like a money grab for Kaepernick, to make it seem like he was always about the money. That $20 million number was intentional. If you look at the top quarterbacks in the league, that is the exact halfway mark. He didn't think the AAF was going to be able to pay him $20 million. His point was the money I'm owed and what I should be making and my worth is as a starting quarterback in the NFL, not the AAF. And he was making that point very clear with that number.
All right, last word then here after the horn, but your gut right now, does Kaepernick play another game in the NFL? Kevin Blackistone?
No.
Mina Kimes?
No.
Sarah Spain?
No.
Mona Shelburne?
No.
We'll move on. NBA news of the day. Roll tape.
To tell you the truth, you know, this whole thing has been a dumpster fire.
Alvin Gentry last night after the Anthony Davis bruised shoulder. And now on the art of dumpster maintenance, the NBA news of the moment, Pelicans firing GM DEMPS. Ownership livid, Woj's word in his reporting, that Davis left the arena during the game. Ramona, how bad a situation is New Orleans in right now? Does firing Demps rectify it or make it worse?
Yeah, I'm still not quite sure why they're upset he was leaving the arena. That's what you do. You go get an MRI when you have a bruised shoulder. But it makes it better because you have some clarity. And now, moving forward, I think most of us who cover the league weren't expecting Demps to have that job much longer. The only thing that surprised me was the timing of this. And so it just gives whoever is going to be in the interim role and maybe or in the permanent role longer to do their scouting and make their plans for how they're going to trade him over the
Sarah
summer.
Spain?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like Ramona said, if he wasn't going to be around to make that trade in the offseason for Davis, you might as well move on. But I don't think it looks great for it to come after the head coach says it's a garbage fire and people complain about Anthony Davis walking out, because it does seem like a sort of rash decision to try to control things that at this point aren't really controllable.
Mina Kimes?
Yeah, I agree. The timing of this is weird, and it's coming after Demps made the right decision, in my mind, in not doing a rush trade with Los Angeles. However, he's made a lot of wrong decisions over the years, arguably wasting the prime of Anthony Davis's career. And that's why this is happening. It's the culmination of all of those decisions. It's just a kind of a weird time.
Yeah, this is a franchise that could not win with Anthony Davis. They've had 3 winning seasons in this decade. The last one being last year. They were excited. They got off to a 3-0 start this year, and look where they are right now. I don't think that this helps any. It looks like they're in disarray. This is a team, remember, that has their training staff run by people from the New Orleans Saints, which may be a reason why so many of their players wind up getting hurt.
I never even considered that, JB. Anthony Davis still wants to play in the All-Star game, Ramona, and it's going to be depending on the treatment on this bruised shoulder. But I got to ask you, could New Orleans use the injury as an out to do what maybe they always wanted all along and sit him for the rest of the year?
Yeah, they can use it as an out, but I don't think they should. I know a lot of front office people that disagree with me, but players play. They train in the offseason, they get hurt and walking down the street. You got to let them out there.
Let that be the last word. Players play. Sports yappers yap. They'll yap and buy or sell next. Stick around. When Shaq came to see me play in high school, when AI came to see me play in high school, they weren't saying it was a recruiting trip then, but because it's Rich Paul and LeBron, now it's a recruitment trip. Ramona, does LeBron James need to defend himself here? And does that defense hold up?
Yeah, he's not defending himself. He's defending Rich Paul, who is his agent and his business partner. And I think he finally has a recognition, at least, and he's putting it forward publicly, that people in the league do not like them. People in the league do not like Rich Paul. One, there's a lot of reasons for that. He took a different path to become an agent in this league, and people don't like when you do things differently than other agents. But I like that LeBron's sticking up for his agent here because he's been taking a lot of heat.
I think he is defending himself against continued speculation that he's as much a part of this ownership group of Clutch Sports as Rich Paul is, and that he has a vested interest in maneuvering and manipulating the way the league works and the way players operate. So trying to compare himself to other players who were not potentially invested or interested in how an agency works is a great way to try to separate himself from Clutch.
I agree with Sarah. He's the face of the agency, and that informs the decisions that some players make, which obviously bothers people around the NBA. But I'll say this. How's that been working out for them lately? Not so well. So maybe people shouldn't be that worried about Clutch.
Maybe.
the fact of the matter is what's going on here is recruiting. And why is it recruiting? Because what did we just talk about a week and a half ago? Jay-Z, who represents an agency, right, was at a Zion Williamson game, and the same question came up. Of course these guys want to let them know.
But I don't want to get it lost. Amina Kimes, you were saying, how has it worked for Rich Paul? Basically, you're talking about the Anthony Davis fiasco and everything that played out there. Real quick, Ramona, on LeBron being the face of Clutch, but not being an owner of Clutch.
Yeah, the league actually investigated that last year, and to see if LeBron ever profited directly from anything that Clutch did with other clients, and they found that he did not. So even though there is the LRMR, which is the agency that's the overall sports brand that they have, Clutch Sports is separate from LeBron. Now, he's also a heck of a face for Clutch Sports.
I hear you, yeah. I hear the league found he was separate. I don't know how he could be separate. We'll move on. Over 60 unsigned free agents, opening day 41 days away. Trevor Bauer of the Indians is signed but has an idea. If teams don't want to sign players long-term and players aren't currently employed, why not one-year deals for everybody? Bauer says that's how major corporations run. Gives players a chance to maximize their value while teams won't overextend. Buy or sell, Sarah?
Well, I'm selling it. I'm glad Trevor Bauer took a moment out of his time arguing with young women on Twitter to invent the one-year deal in baseball. This already exists, and there's a reason that not every player wants this. You want security of a longer-term deal because of injury or declining performance. You want to live in one place for longer than a year at a time. Of course, this is always an option. It's not a fix. The situation.
Sarah, Trevor Bauer's going to tweet at you. I'm selling this. You know, with the NFL, people always say, oh, they should have guaranteed contracts, to which I respond, well, then you get a lot of short one-year deals. The problem is when you take on risk like that, especially if you're a pitcher, a position where players get injured all of the time, it's far, far, far more risky for your long-term prospects in terms of making money.
Kevin, think of it this way. Buy or sell Machado, Harper, signing a one-year deal for 40, 45 million even.
Sure, I buy it for them right now because their backs are against the wall if they're going to play baseball this year. But I sell it for the same reasons that Sarah mentioned. I mean, it's kind of like the President of the United States coming out and saying, hey, we should have a 4th of July celebration with fireworks in Washington, D.C. We already got that, yo.
Okay, Ramona Shelburne, how about you?
Was Trevor Bauer trying to make the owner's point for them? I'm sure that every owner would be very happy to just give players one-year deals. Like, I don't know why was this supposed to be helpful to the players?
Okay. Well, if they're currently unemployed, I think is what we're saying here. We'll move on. Buy or sell 3 NBA All-Star games and the dunk contest. And the three-point contest. Whatever all happens this weekend, it all goes into a black hole once you feast your eyes on a changing jersey. The future. Amina Kimes, buy or sell?
I'm selling the utility of this, but I'm buying the idea that this would stop something really embarrassing from happening, which is players who burn jerseys when their favorite players leave. Maybe this would finally put a stop to that.
Fans who burn jerseys. Okay, so you think, all right. Kevin Blackistone, you saw Adam Silver unveil something in the future. We don't have any details on it, but buy or sell?
I'm buying that. I don't know what it is either, but I do know that I have 2 workout shirts that change colors and give you different images as your body heats up. So I'm all for this. This would be pretty cool on the basketball.
And that helps you work out better, Kevin? All right. Shelburne, how about you?
I think I figured this one out. It's not about changing the jersey names and numbers. It's about being able to put new advertisements and jersey patches on it in the future so that you don't have to pick just one.
I didn't even consider that. All right. Sarah Spain, how about you?
Well, that would then mean that there was some higher power that had digital access to your jersey when the sponsorship changed, which is kind of weird and would be annoying if they arbitrarily started changing your jerseys without your ability to maintain something. I think it's weird. I don't even know what I'm buying yet because I don't know what exactly it is, but I do think it'd be cool if a guy was like really getting hot and everybody changed to his jersey so they could turn around and the whole stadium.
Yeah, okay, and then you can change back to somebody else.
We need some of that.
We were promised jetpacks in the future. All right? Right now, what we might have is a changing jersey. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. All right, Shelburne, thank you. Have a wonderful weekend. Kevin Blackistone, don't you have to get to the gym with your changing, Sarah Spain, Amina Kimes, showdown next. Stick around. Times in Spain, under pressure and showdown. 2 quick ones and then a FaceTime. Nationally televised game for Ja Morant last night in Murray State. 32, 6, and 7 on 10 of 24 in the win over Austin Peay. ESPN's Jonathan Givony has him number 3 pick on the board. Sarah, how does that strike you for a guy who's playing at Murray State?
Well, his numbers are fantastic, but there's a big risk in not only taking a guy who's playing against lesser competition, but doesn't have the name and brand recognition of a Duke guy that could make the difference when people are buying tickets for your team.
So John Morant is on track to average 20 points and 10 assists per game. That's never happened in college history. Some of that's because of the competition, but it's mostly because he's awesome. Givony's right. He should go in the top 5.
I go with Givony. I go with Mina Kimes. He played AAU with Zion, and Damian Lillard is a comp. How about that? We'll move on. Showdown 2. Tennessee, Kentucky. Number 1 versus number 5. Vols undefeated in conference, but on the road here. Mina, who's got more to prove?
I think it's Tennessee. They're sort of the anti-Duke. They actually have 0 points from freshmen this season. They can't afford to lose to Kentucky, which got upset recently.
Yeah, Mina speaks to the depth of Tennessee, which is going to serve them in the tournament. While Duke, we're not really sure how their lack of experience is going to play out. They got to get as many wins and as much good experience against good teams now.
You know what? You had me at anti-Duke, Mina. This is going to be a 30-second FaceTime time.
So this Saturday is the annual NBA dunk contest and our annual ritual of complaining about the dunk contest and lack of originality, how it peaked in 2016, how no stars participate. I've got an idea for a way for a star to participate. At the same time the dunk contest is happening, let Joel Embiid sit on the opposite end of the court with his laptop and dunk on Twitter trolls. That, in my mind, would be just as entertaining as whatever dunks we see on the court.
How on brand from Mina Kimes. Anybody got a pick for any of the skills? Some 3? I have Del Curry winning the 3. Del Curry, you heard me right. We'll see you Monday.
More Del Curry to you.